This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining Gym. SuperTraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. I'm answering a question today about Operation Get Less Fatterest. Some people wanted to know how they can alter their workouts to maximize fat loss. So there's a bunch of stuff that we can do, but we always have to try to keep in mind what's reasonable for you to do. So I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions. There's a couple different things you can do. But again, I want you to relate it back to your own life, and I want you to relate it back to how long can you be consistent with this kind of thing. And then you need to apply an exit strategy to it, as we do with all things. Whenever we're jumping into business, whenever we're jumping into anything, we want to not only think about how it's going to go when we're doing it, but we also want to think, how am I going to get to the next point? How am I going to get to the next level? Or if I need to transition out of this completely, how am I going to do that? So example number one on how to kind of basically, I'll just say burn more calories. It's easier to say it that way because burning fat is kind of a weird, I can't really ensure that you're going to be burning fat. One thing that you can do is you can work out twice a day. There's a couple different ways that we can do that. One, we can do that through some cardio training. And number two, we can do that through lifting some weights. And I guess a third way that we can do that is we can lift weights twice a day, right? For a while when I was doing my bodybuilding show, I worked out 3 times a day. I did cardio twice and I lifted once. So I guess there's a lot of different combinations of things that we can do. But let's just start out by trying to keep this the most simple. And let's just say that you can only afford to go to the gym once per day, okay? So if you can only afford to go to the gym once per day, then my suggestion would be, on the days that are going to be a little bit harder, I would start out with weight training. On the days that would be harder for weight training, I'd start out with weight training. And I would finish up maybe about 30 minutes later or 20 minutes later, maybe after getting some water and just resting a little bit. Maybe you don't have that much time to rest. Maybe, I'm sorry, let me back that up a little bit and say maybe just rest like 8 to 10 minutes. Should be plenty of time. Just a little bit of rest, for your mind and stuff like that. So once you're done with your strength training session, you're going to move into some cardio. And my opinion on cardio is that it's kind of useless to do unless you get your heart rate between like 135 and 145. If you're newer to it, you can probably get your heart rate to 125 and get a pretty good amount out of it. But you should be sweating. You should be kind of breathing hard. It should have some difficulty to it. If you only have access to a treadmill, put that treadmill on a nice steep incline and walk at a decent pace. Just something that gets that heart rate up. A way to check your heart rate without having to spend a lot of money, get what's called a pulse oximeter. You can get it off of Amazon. I believe they're like 15 or 20 bucks, and it gives you a pretty damn accurate heart rate reading right there on the spot. So, and it's just something you clip to your finger. Really, really easy, really simple thing to do. So that's option number one. You lift some weights and then you do some cardiovascular training, right? Post-workout, you might want to have, throw down a protein shake or something like that once both workouts are completed. Another way to do it is to split things up. You can do your cardio in the morning. You hear a lot of people talk about fasted cardio. You could do some fasted cardio in the morning, and then later on in the day you can get some strength training in. My thoughts on fasted cardio is I personally don't believe that fasted cardio is exponentially that much greater than doing like unfasted cardio, I guess. But what I will say is it's just another opportunity to not eat. And so the more opportunities that you have to not eat, maybe quite possibly that can aid you in being able to control the overall amount of food you take in, and maybe that would assist you in losing weight a little bit more fasterest. Some other options that we have here are to, so I said to do your cardio in the morning and to train in the afternoon. Last option I'm going to give you here, because there's many that you can kind of tinker with, you can lift twice a day. So lifting twice a day, you can have an AM PM schedule. If we were to do it for legs, we would do 8 to 12 sets in the morning and 8 to 12 sets in the PM. How many hours should be between the two workouts? I would say a minimum of about 3 or 4. If you were to do, like, let's say an arm day, you could either do biceps in the morning and triceps later on in the day, or you could do biceps and triceps early in the day and biceps and triceps later on in the day as well. It just kind of depends on how you want to do it. You could do 4 or 5 sets in the morning, 4 or 5 sets later on that day. I do recommend that you get food in, that you get in nutrients, you get in some salt, you get in some water, and make sure that you feel good for both workouts. When it comes to the actual workouts themselves, this is where we can get a lot of bang for our buck. When it comes to trying to burn fat and trying to just lose weight in general and trying to burn calories in the gym, we get a lot from things like deadlifts and squats and bench press. However, those things take a lot of time to recover from, in my opinion. And so what I have found for myself, being a longtime powerlifter and now moving into doing some amateur bodybuilding, I'll just call it that, because I am by no means no professional. But what I would say is that I don't really want to be doing a lot of squats, deads, and benches unless they're kind of more of an assistance type of movement. They're for higher repetitions and things like that, because I don't want to really be doing those movements real heavy while prepping for a bodybuilding show. That's me personally. You might find something different to work out well for yourself. But if I was going to do some deadlifts, an example would be I might work my way up to a certain amount of weight and do like 3 sets of 15. So an example in the deadlift might be I might use 275 or 315, which for me isn't really crazy heavy, but I would keep a good consistent tempo with it. And it's really just to work the hams and work the lats. It's not really an exercise where I'm really trying to gain a lot of strength or do anything real crazy. Same thing with benching, same thing with squatting. What I also would say is that we have a tendency to spend a lot of time on these movements. These movements, they cost us time. Whereas if we're to go to the leg press, warm-ups on leg press are pretty quick. You do like a plate, and then maybe you throw on like 3 plates, then maybe you throw on like 6 plates. Like, you don't usually do every incremental plate on a leg press. As in a squat, that would be a huge mistake to go from 1 plate to 4 plates and so on. That would feel like it's going to kill you, it's going to crush you. So we spend less time warming up when we utilize machines and when we take advantage of some of the exercises in the gym that kind of lend themselves to bodybuilding. Therefore, we could spend more time in the working sets, and we can also spend a little less time in between our sets resting and recovering from these lifts, especially because the rep ranges are going to typically be higher when we're trying to augment the body, when we're trying to make some good body composition changes. We're going to probably be doing anywhere from 10 to 20 reps. For me personally, what I have been really enjoying doing lately is going into some deep water, just swimming out as far as I can and not really being sure how I'm going to be able to swim back. So I do a lot of supersets, and I'll oftentimes do things for 15 to 20 reps, and then the next thing that I do will also be for 15 to 20 reps, and the next thing I do after that will sometimes be for 15 to 20 reps. So the reps can start to get to be astronomical. You can start to get a lot of reps in there. What we don't want to have happen is we don't want the reps to be so high that we are not getting enough intensity in, because we need some sort of intensity to have enough stimulus to build the muscles properly. So you don't want to be doing like 100 reps necessarily, but I do like the feel of doing something like a leg press, and in my gym, the leg press happens to be right next to the belt squat. So I'll do, I don't know, a set of 15 on leg press, and maybe I'll change the cam, because we have one of those prime machines where you can change the cam and you can change the angle. I might change the angle 2 or 3 times and then try to move over to the belt squat and try to squat immediately after that. So 10, 20, 30 reps of that, and then moving into the belt squat and trying another 20 reps. We're doing a shit ton of reps at that point. Sometimes, like I did this week, I'll keep it a little bit more simplerist, and I will just go right from the leg press right to the belt squat, and that's what I did this week for sets of like 15 to 20, so still ending up in the 30 to 40 rep range. Really, really brutal. You're trying just to take yourself to, in bodybuilding, we're trying to take ourselves to failure, so that's another big change that's going to be quite different from your powerlifting workouts. Powerlifting, we want to very, very rarely get anywhere near failure. In powerlifting, we want to hit our sets of 5. We want to hit our sets of 3, our sets of 2, our singles. We want them to be clean and crisp, and we want them to look professional. We want them to look like we know how to lift. We want them to look like we know exactly what we're doing. When we're bodybuilding, we still want the form and technique to be there, but it might start to fall apart a little bit because we're going to failure. And this is where you might need a good training partner to step in to assist you on whatever machine you're doing, or dumbbells, or whatever movement it is that you're doing. You might need your training partner to give you a little bit of a boost through these reps and through these sets. Again, that's what can also make utilizing a machine a little bit more advantageous, because when we utilize a barbell, sometimes it's a little tougher to spot on like a squat or something like that. Kind of impossible to really spot on like a deadlift or something along those lines. So the machines get to be a little bit easier. They lend themselves a little bit better. So there's a bunch of different options you can utilize in your training to help you kind of speed up this fat burning process. Another thing is, which I mentioned briefly, is your rest intervals. Try to only rest for about a minute. You could also try to rest for like 30 seconds, but the problem with resting too little is that you won't be able to lift enough weight to elicit the change that you really need and to be able to hold on to the muscle mass that you need. So resting about a minute in between sets. You can even check your heart rate in between sets and trying to make sure that heart rate, stays above 135 for most of the workout, or above 125 might be a good idea. If you really wanted to, you could even superset in doing a lower body exercise on an upper body day, and vice versa. So an example of that would be if we were to do legs, we can get, as soon as we get up off of the leg press and giving a good effort there, we can drop down and do some push-ups. On a day where we're training upper body and we're doing, let's say, bench press, we could pop off and do a set of 25 squats, just some body weight squats. These are all things that can help keep that heart rate elevated. I don't recommend hopping around too much, because you're not really just trying to burn calories, you're not really just trying to burn fat. We're trying to look jacked, and people that are jacked don't hop around like bunny rabbits in the gym. So make sure that you're not doing too much of that. A little bit of it might be warranted, and it might be effective for you. Last thing I'll finish with here is another alteration you can make to your workouts that I think can help you burn some more calories, is just to do stuff single arm. You do a set of 20 on this arm and a set of 20 on this arm. You do a set of 20 single leg deadlifts. It just really adds up to being a lot of reps. The coordination that it takes, the stability that it takes. To me, it feels like I'm burning more calories. It feels like it's extra work, because it's 20 reps over here and 20 reps over here, which is 40 reps. And if we do 3 sets of 20, that ends up being a hell of a lot of back and forth with the reps, as opposed to if we're just knocking out 20 reps all at once, right? So it might be something that you want to try, some of these things that I mentioned. Also, anything that you guys got to add to this, let me know if there's something that you've been doing in your training. The last thing too is, which I didn't address, is some HIIT training. You can implement a little bit of HIIT training. I'm a little bit more of a fan of steady state cardio. The only reason why I'm a big fan of steady state cardio is I think that you're getting most of your HIIT training through your weight training, and HIIT training can also be a little bit difficult to recover from. However, if you wanted to, you can implement some sprints, which would be a form of HIIT training, and you can bring some of that into your training protocol. Obviously, don't forget, last but not least, you got to keep that nutrition on point, and if your nutrition's not on point, we're not going to really see any changes, right? Thank you so much for following along with Operation Get Less Fatterist. That's how you can maximize your workouts for the most amount of fat loss. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.